Hi, Emmy Locke with Balanced Living, Restoring Wholeness to Body, Mind, Spirit. Today I'm sharing my second Phoenix Rising moment of my personal healing journey. Some people find God in religion, and I managed to lose my personal connection through my religious experiences. I'm going to share that. I also had some pretty intense mental addictions to fear of failure, fear of rejection, and shame, and self-hatred, and I'm going to share a little bit of how I managed to find some healing and freedom from those as well. I started my personal healing journey in college, as I shared in my last video, and from that point to this crash and burn, a lot of life happened. I got married, I got pregnant, I graduated from college, I had my first baby, and we got hired at a church to direct the youth program. I put my personal healing on hold, but my issues did not stand still, and in fact, I continued acquiring more patterns that were unhealthy and not beneficial to me or my relationships. I hit the wall after a couple of years of working with youth and staff and walking with them in their hard places, in their emotions, in their spirit, in their body, and realizing I can't keep telling these people who are hurting to devote their lives to a God and a system that wasn't actually able to create internal healing and life change in my own life. And I decided I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't promote it. So I needed to take some steps back, and in my pain, as my mental addictions were growing and I felt like I was crashing in my mind with fear and control issues and self-hatred and comparing myself, and my perfectionism was through the roof, and I felt like I was failing all the time as a mom, as a wife, as a minister of the God that I was promoting. I really hit the wall, and frequently I would find myself at the front of the church after a service just crying my eyes out, hoping that God would answer me at some point and healing would come. Several months into this crash and burn, I had a woman who was a visitor at the church come to the front and ask if she could pray with me. I said yes, because I was desperate for anything and anyone who could help. And she didn't know me, she didn't know my story, I didn't tell her anything, and she put her hands on me and within minutes started speaking into my life things that she shouldn't know, that she was praying with divine power, divine insight, divine presence in a way that was bringing physical shifting in my body. At one point, as she was praying, I had the physical sensation of someone taking my heart and wrapping it up, binding up the wounds. In another moment, I felt this warm liquid love, that she was praying love into me, and it from my toes all the way up to the top of my head, I felt this filling. And what happened to me in this moment was that my personal, intimate, divine reconnected, and I was again able to feel the connection to divine spirit that I had had as a child. Up until that point, because I was a perfectionist, firstborn, rule-following, good girl, I fell really easily into the religious structures, the checklists, the lists of things to change, and the sins to confess, and the struggle of living up to these standards that I tried and tried and tried. I had this giant effort happening, and it was not creating more life in me, it was actually shutting me down. And in this moment of this woman laying hands on me and praying, life flooded back into me. The divine connection, the divine spirit, the divine love flooded in, and the shift happened pretty instantaneously. I had a lot to walk out from that point on, but that was a very key moment in my healing journey. From there, I started letting go of the control and the checklists and the striving that was connected to my religion at that point. And I began tuning into this divine interconnection, the divine wisdom within. And the Spirit started to lead me to what things were ready to move out of my mental addiction framework. So the rewriting of these stories in here started after I could tap into the divine spirit and the divine wisdom that I had always known as a kid. At one point, I found myself on the kitchen floor in a heap of tears by myself, sobbing because I felt Spirit asking me to let go of this particular mental addiction to a control issue that was really a protective, self-protection, that I felt like if I let go of this control issue, I might die, that I certainly wasn't safe and I would be vulnerable in relationship. And I was scared to death to trust Spirit and let it go, to rewrite that story and find some healing and freedom. But in the heap on the floor, sobbing my guts out, I surrendered that control issue, and I agreed to let Spirit help rewrite that storyline so that I could live out a little bit more freedom. And that one also took quite a bit of time, but I continue to this day to see less and less of control issues clamping down and stealing my life, basically. The last moment, defining moment in this Phoenix Rising was that I struggled so intensely with shame and self-hatred and feeling like I was failing constantly. And I asked a couple of women that were connected to Divine Spirit really intimately if they would join me, hold space, lay hands, and see if there could get any shift on this storyline that I was living out that was creating such bondage for me. And they did. And in the course of an afternoon and evening, the insight and freedom and shift that started happening when I was able again to choose in a very scary moment to look at myself authentically, look at the storylines authentically, to see just how much I was holding on to shame as a protection, actually, and I was holding on to self-hatred, and I was holding on to the standards of perfection because they were the ways that I gained love, which wasn't love. It was more of approval. And I decided it was time to release those and allow divine forgiveness, divine unconditional love right where I was at before I was perfect. I was never going to be perfect. To embrace the idea that I was forgiven, that I was whole, that I was loved right where I was at. And that storyline began to sink actually into my spirit and my mind, and I began to believe it. And that also was a journey of walking out, changing the ways I was thinking on a daily basis. Behaviors that came out of that shame and guilt had to change. But that defining moment when I surrendered those things and embraced and received the idea that I was loved and forgiven by the divine really was a defining moment for me in my freedom and healing. Out of that season then, as I was rising out of shame and fear and rejection and control issues and religion, I was rising into this simplicity of inner divine wisdom, divine spirit, divine connection, communication again in this intimate place with spirit, and watching how spirit would organically lead me in the shifting of mental addictions to new storylines. So a lot of change happened. That's also when I decided that I wanted everything that I do to be about divine unconditional love, forgiveness, the simplest of things, a personal connection with spirit, and healing. So that's how I rose out of some of the ashes of this massive crash and burn season. And I hope that you're encouraged. I know it was a little bit vague and overarching, and I'm willing to share details with anyone who would want to hear more of that story. But I went truly from a person who was feeling dead and caught in cages and rules and religion to this person who finally felt like a river of living water was flowing from within me, that light was planted in here, that unconditional love was flowing in and out, and radiance started to happen in my life in really tangible, real ways. And I could finally say that I was willing then to walk with people through their mind and spirit journey. I still didn't know what to do with the body. That's coming. But I was willing at that point then to offer divine love and light into someone's life, because I had started to experience real, true transformation and healing in my own journey. Thank you for listening. I hope you're encouraged, and I will share my number 3 Phoenix Rising moment next time. Thank you.